God's blessings to everyone. This is a DGHradio.com news and information news update for the British Virgin Islands, and I'm reporter EVH reporting the latest developments from across the British Virgin Islands. Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley is in London this week for high-level talks with United Kingdom officials, and security is at the top of his agenda. He is pressing for stronger support to protect the territory's borders and coastal waters, citing growing concerns about gun crime, human trafficking, and drug smuggling moving through the Virgin Islands seas. The Premier has pointed to recent intelligence-led operations, including a major drug recovery off Virgin Gorda that netted cocaine valued at more than $140 million, as evidence that local law enforcement is facing well-resourced criminal networks. In London, he is using meetings at the Joint Ministerial Council to argue that, because the UK holds responsibility for defense and external affairs, it must be an active partner in long-term border security planning, not just in emergency responses. Linked to those talks, Dr. Wheatley is also framing climate resilience as a key security issue for the territory. He has warned that stronger storms, repeated flooding, and coastal erosion are now the new normal for the Virgin Islands, and that rebuilding the same way after each disaster is no longer an option. The government is seeking better access to climate finance to fund sea defenses, revetment projects, and mangrove restoration, along with more resilient public infrastructure. At this week's meetings, the Premier is expected to argue that helping small territories like the Virgin Islands adapt to climate change is part of the UK's wider responsibility, given its historic emissions and its constitutional links to the islands. The outcome of these discussions will help determine how quickly key projects move from plans on paper to concrete work on the ground. Beyond the UK talks, the Virgin Islands is also working its diplomatic channels among fellow developing countries. In recent days, the territory took part in leadership discussions for the upcoming regional conference on South-South cooperation in Latin America and the Caribbean. There, Virgin Islands representatives joined counterparts from across the region in warning that traditional development partners are shifting their priorities away from broad support for poorer countries and toward their own security and trade agendas. In response, the conference is pushing countries of the Global South to deepen cooperation with each other through technical exchanges, shared projects, and joint positions in international forums. For the Virgin Islands, that means trying to turn its experience in services, finance, and climate vulnerability into a seat at the table when new development initiatives are designed. The changing global environment is also front and center for the territory's financial services sector. At a recent tax summit in Buenos Aires, BVI Finance Chief Executive Elise Donovan told an international audience that jurisdictions like the Virgin Islands are operating in a new era of pressure. She highlighted a difficult mix of tighter transparency rules, evolving sanctions regimes, and rising cyber threats that all hit international financial centers at once. Donovan stressed that competitiveness now depends on being seen as well-regulated, technologically capable, and resilient against cyber attacks, not on lowering standards. She also pointed to efforts underway in the Virgin Islands to diversify into areas like digital assets while keeping strong safeguards in place. For residents at home, those comments are a reminder that decisions in distant boardrooms can have direct effects on government revenue and jobs here in the territory. Regional security is also drawing concern after a leading international commission condemned recent United States air and boat strikes against suspected drug smuggling vessels in Caribbean and Eastern Pacific waters. The Global Commission on Drug Policy, backed by high-profile former leaders and experts, has warned that destroying boats at sea and killing those on board without trial risks normalizing extrajudicial killings and breaching international law. Human rights officials insist that lethal force is only lawful when there is a clear and imminent threat to life, a threshold critics say is not being met in these operations. For small territories like the Virgin Islands, which sit close to active trafficking routes, the controversy raises difficult questions about how far powerful allies should go in using military force in regional waters, and what protections exist for nearby states and territories when those operations escalate. Closer to home, a major legal case involving a former Virgin Islands premier is moving into a new phase. Andrew A. Fahey, who was convicted in a United States federal court in 2024 on drug trafficking conspiracy charges, has advanced his appeal against that conviction. He is currently serving an 11-year sentence and is being held in the United States while his legal team works through the appellate process. Point. The options before the court could range from upholding the original verdict to ordering a new trial to altering aspects of the sentence. For many in the territory, the case remains a sensitive subject that touches on questions of governance, external influence, and the long-term reputational impact of corruption allegations at the highest level of public office. Even as current politics and court cases unfold, the Virgin Islands has just paused to remember a turning point in its democratic history. On Monday, November 24th, the territory observed a public holiday marking the commemoration of the Great March of 1949 and the restoration of the Legislative Council. The holiday recalls the day when more than 1,500 Virgin Islanders marched to the Commissioner's office in Roadtown to protest the then colonial administration and demand a stronger local voice in decision-making. Point. That march is widely credited with helping pave the way for the restoration of the Legislative Council in 1950 and for the system of representative government that followed. Residents were encouraged to use the holiday not just as a day off, but as an opportunity to reflect on how far the territory has come and how unresolved questions about self-determination and constitutional reform still echo the demands of 1949. On the health front, Roadtown streets were transformed into a moving sea of color over the weekend as more than 50 cancer warriors took part in the 2025 Color Me Walk. Participants, including survivors and families affected by the disease, walked a route through the capital while being showered in colored powder, raising funds for cancer diagnosis and treatment in the territory. Organizers have long used events like this to help pay for mammograms, improve diagnostic equipment, and support patients who must travel overseas for specialized care. While the exact fundraising total for this year has not yet been announced, the walk again underlined both the community's willingness to support those facing cancer and the continuing challenge of providing comprehensive, affordable treatment in a small health system. Education and justice were in the spotlight with the launch of the Dame Janice M. Pereira Scholarship. At a gala dinner in Roadtown, the BVI Bar Association formally unveiled the scholarship in honor of Dame Janice, the first Virgin Islander and the first woman to serve as Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. The award is designed to help aspiring lawyers from the territory meet the high costs of legal training, which often include overseas study and extended professional programs. Speakers at the event praised Dame Janice's decades of service and her role in modernizing the courts, while stressing that a strong, independent judiciary depends on a steady pipeline of well-trained local attorneys. If it secures lasting financial backing, the scholarship could become a permanent feature of the Virgin Islands educational landscape, helping future generations serve in courts and law firms at home and across the region. Culture and tourism have also been sharing the stage this week. Fungi Fest 2025 has wrapped up after 3 evenings of music and celebration spread across Jost Van Dyke, Tortola, and Virgin Gorda. The festival, a key part of Culture and Tourism Month under the theme Rooted in Culture, Growing Through Tourism, brought together scratch bands, traditional foods, and craft vendors. On Tortola, performances at the Cyril B. Romney Tortola Pier Park featured well-known groups such as Four Strong, Two Brain Cells, Zion Sounds, Razor Blades, Lashing Dogs, the NTCG Fungi Band, Family String Band, and the Honeybees, alongside the lighting of a 30-foot Christmas tree to launch the holiday season. Officials have again emphasized that preserving indigenous music and storytelling is not only about heritage, but also about offering visitors an authentic Virgin Islands experience. The wider Caribbean is mourning the loss of one of its musical giants. Jamaican reggae legend Jimmy Cliff has died at the age of 81. Born James Chambers, he was a defining figure in ska, rocksteady, and reggae, and became known worldwide through songs such as Many Rivers to Cross and his starring role in the film The Harder They Come, which helped introduce Jamaican music and culture to global audiences. According to a statement shared by his wife, he passed away after complications from a seizure followed by pneumonia in Jamaica. Across the region, including here in the Virgin Islands, his songs have long been staples at festivals, family gatherings, and community events. His passing closes an important chapter in Caribbean music history, but his catalog remains part of the soundtrack of daily life in these islands. Sporting development brought some positive headlines for the territory. 5 local football coaches have earned their CONCACAF C license certifications, a regional qualification that focuses on youth-centered coaching, session planning, and player development. The licenses were awarded at a recent ceremony and are expected to strengthen grassroots programs and national youth squads in the coming seasons. In squash, members of the Virgin Islands men's national team are off to a strong start at the Caribbean Championships in Guyana. Players, including Ollie Henderson and Rory Thornton, have already recorded early victories in their individual matches, giving the squad momentum as the tournament continues. For a small territory, these achievements underscore the impact that disciplined coaching and focused training can have on performance at the regional level. Turning briefly to road safety, police and first responders were called to a 2-car accident in Road Town on Monday afternoon. The collision took place near the traffic lights by the Joshua J. Smith Social Security Building and the area known as Fonseca Corner, after one vehicle reportedly entered the path of another. Both cars sustained visible damage, but no injuries were reported. Officers diverted traffic around the scene while the vehicles were removed. The incident is a reminder that as traffic volumes grow in the capital, defensive driving and patience at busy junctions remain essential to prevent more serious outcomes. These and other issues are of great concern within the islands. Let us know your thoughts by texting your comments to 1-315-898-1449. You can also join our WhatsApp group and get the news, weather, and other insightful information delivered right to your smartphone. To join, text JOIN to 1-315-898-1449. Please include your name in the text message. You will receive a call to verify your request. I'm your reporter, EVH, signing off for DGHradio.com. Remember, EVH and DGH, together we explain, verify, and highlight as we deliver global headlines. Because on DGHradio.com, the news never sleeps. Point. Goodbye for now. Ciao.